It's going to be a football game tonight now. No doubt. It's going to be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
The 9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground and still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughn, and Randy Isbell.
Hello and welcome to another Football to the Max. And yes, we did take an extra day that we didn't mean to, but sometimes, we were doing these interview things and they don't always pan out the way you want them to, so we had to wait an extra day. And we were able to get them for today, so yay, we're here. It has been an extra day of the weekend since we last talked to each other here, so how's it been for everybody?
Yeah, I needed that extra day of rest after all this crazy college basketball that went on those first 2 rounds. So, yes, it is sad that we weren't able to get it off live and on time that we wanted, but I was okay with the extra day.
Yeah, by the way, everybody, we are, of course, on the W2M network, and we are affiliated in partnership with LastWordOnSports.com, and I as well. Thought that some of these crazy outcomes of these games this past weekend were pretty, interesting, but not only that exciting. Sadly, I have not got a chance to sit down and watch a full game. But through the highlights, man, I'm kind of jealous because some of these are pretty scary, especially if you're fans of the guys like me, a Texas team that gets beat at the buzzer. So,
yeah, I did have. Arkansas is not in it, but Arkansas Little Rock at least got through round 1 and then lost, or round 2 and lost in round 3. So,
no, actually, I've learned they switched it back, so it was round 1 that they won.
Really?
Okay. They went back to first 4 instead of making it the first round.
Smart people. It's the way it should have been all along, really.
Yes.
But. So we will talk about that more kind of in depth. Randy's sort of the only one that's really watched games, so it'll be kind of Randy kind of doing what he does for when we talk college football, and him kind of going off there and talking about that. We'll do that at the end, so save you guys from people who maybe don't necessarily care about all that.
Or just, someone who, like me, has not had an opportunity really just to sit down and, understand what's all that has happened over this tournament, If you want to ask me about what happened to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, I can answer that. But college basketball at this moment, not so much.
Mm-hmm. You been watching that?
Hey, it's just something that's always on my mind.
Yeah, I have the VHS tape of that, so, I technically could... if it wasn't because some of that is not totally child friendly, I would sit there and have my kid watch that. But anyway, now we've mentioned Roger Rabbit on the podcast, we should probably get into what's been going on with these. Of course, they're in the coaches and general managers, all this meetings that are going on right now, and of course, part of what they do during this is they decide on these rule changes for next year, and there's nothing obviously eye-popping going on with those. They did make the point after touchdown official. Now it will be a 33-yarder permanently. I think we're kind of all in favor of this, right? I mean, I enjoyed the fact that people were missing extra points, and they made a difference in the game sometimes.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Yep.
No, I think we can all agree on that because of the fact that, we talked about this when they were first initializing this. It makes it exciting. It changes things up a little here. And like you said, Sean, it's nice to kind of see someone miss an extra point that matters in the game. 2-point conversions, all that more important now. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, certainly. One of the things they're not doing, though, guys, is they're not going to do anything about the catch rule. Instead, we're all stupid, and they're going to educate us more on the catch rule. So how is a league that doesn't even know what the catch rule is going to educate people on what is a catch? Does that make any sense?
They're going to bring back a Schoolhouse Rock, and they're going to give us a musical rendition on the different forms of what is and is not a catch.
Yep. Knowledge is power, everybody.
And with special guest Des Bryant.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, Des caught a pass that wasn't a catch, kids. Let's learn about what it... anyway. I'm just imagining what...
That'd be awesome. That's how that thing started.
Randy. I hope this works, Randy. Look, we got to promote that. We can sell these things to the NFL, I think, Randy. Let's get this going.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what needs to be happening. The one thing that they have made official right now, and that is no more chop blocks. Now, I had to actually get myself... I had to talk to people about this to figure out exactly what qualifies as a chop block and what does not. The cut blocks that the running backs do, that is still legal. So that is not going anywhere. It is when a defender is engaged by one blocker, another blocker cannot come and hit him low. That is outlawed in every situation. We did see an illegal chop block called a lot more last year, and this is just kind of going off of that. I think this is good for player safety. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's where I was confused. I mean, obviously the difference between a cut block and a chop block are close, but I thought chop blocks were already illegal. So the fact that they're going now it's permanently illegal and all of them are... I don't know if I'm going to see much of a difference. Just maybe there are different iterations where chop blocking is okay, but I never thought it should be okay. So I'm cool with them just putting the foot down completely. But I already thought they kind of were.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gary, there were many players on Twitter, defenders, saying that this will now allow them to make a lot of plays on the outside now because chop blocks, which you see a lot of them when a running back takes a pitch to the outside or something like that. And also, I think, Randy, what you're thinking of is now like receivers can't do it out in the open field and stuff like that. Like used to, you used to be able to see them do that. Now they can't do that either. So, yeah. I mean, what do you like? Do you think this would change? Apparently, defenders are saying it will change what offensive teams have to do now.
Well, I think it's going to be safer, at least for the defensive players. And maybe, I mean, I'm sure there are very intricate methods that are going to be taken away now that these extra chop block procedures are now gone. So maybe the defenders are saying it's going to open it up for them a little bit. But to me, it's actually just going to clear their mind going, now I don't have to worry about a chop block at all. Right. Maybe once you get out to the outside with those receivers, you're keeping in mind your legs and where people are diving and stuff. And now maybe it kind of frees your mind enough, and you're going after the ball carrier a bit more and not worrying as much. I obviously I'm not a football player, so I can't argue with them. So I'm just going to have to agree with them that it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think it'll make a difference, and I think you guys are kind of hitting a good point here. On these defenders are going to feel free; they're going to feel like that they can, be more explosive because that hesitation that they've had to have in the past because of that thought process of, hey, I better not go too fast because I may get caught, and if I'm going full speed, I could be, without a kneecap because the guy's going to come at my knees. So I'm going to have to watch what I'm doing at the same time as trying to do my job and get to the running back or the passer or whoever. And I think this is going to be a big deal. Now, is offense going to change? I think offense will probably change a little bit. There'll be some kind of measures taken, on the offensive side of the ball. But, I mean, I don't have a problem with this at all. I mean, sure, this is, it'll probably get ticky-tacky. You'll see some ticky-tacky calls here and there. Don't get me wrong on that. I mean, there are going to be people mad in their living rooms next season about this. But it's player safety. It's smart. It's a good decision. It's kind of like a cop pulling you over for going, 4 miles over the speed limit. You got that 5-mile cushion. You can go 5 miles over. Now you can't. This is basically what's going to happen. And people are going to be pissed, but it's got to happen for player safety.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I think it's so much better for the players. I mean, if you're really... I don't know who's going to sit here and say this is a good thing or a bad thing at all. If you're really talking about caring about these players and anything that you can do that's not going to hurt the game as far as making it even more like that whole deal with the quarterbacks where they want to give them more fouls for hitting them low and all that, I think you're going to get to a point where the players aren't even going to know where to hit the quarterback. That's one of those things. But this is a situation where now it kind of makes it fair for everybody. Instead of it just being about, you can't hit the quarterback low, well, now you can't hit any of the players low. It's nice to hear about a rule change that benefits the defense for once. Mm-hmm. Right? Or everything's always about how it benefits the offense. Another thing that was, Gary and I got to talk about it, but and this seems to be something that they're going to pass. They have not officially done it yet. I think they have another day of meetings tomorrow. Automatic ejection. Basically taking a soccer rule or basketball technical foul and putting it to football with the personal fouls. Certain personal fouls, you get 2 of them in the game, you're gone. What do you think about this, Randy?
Yeah, from what I saw, it's unsportsmanlike conduct that is going to be the main issue with this rule and what they're going to be enforcing. So I would rather see it be the unnecessary roughness, where you get the 2 and you're out. Rather
Is that
than
the only one? I think they said something about...
Again, I haven't been able to watch a ton on it, but watching ESPN earlier, was it either today or last night, where they were discussing it, that's what they were focusing on, was it was going to be unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. So, the beyond the unnecessary roughness stuff. So, I guess from what they said, if this rule was in place last year, there was only going to be 1 person that would have been ejected the whole time. But, I mean, it's interesting to see, but I'm worried about, okay, are they really just going to do this? Are they really going to eject somebody for an over celebration and a touchdown late in the game because they had an unsportsmanlike conduct before, and now here they are taunting, which is an unsportsmanlike conduct? Are you really going to eject somebody for doing something like that? It has me a little iffy. I would rather
them not to do it.
So we're going to stick with the no fun league. All right.
I mean, that's what this league is.
I understand, but I would much rather it be on unsportsmanlike conduct, and even make it maybe 3 at that point.
I thought, really whenever we were talking, I mean, they might have changed this now. Who knows? But whenever Gary and I were talking about it last week, the deal was they were going to decide between 3 to 5 different of these, whatever considered personal fouls, and say, okay, these are the ones that we're going to look at if you do it twice.
Yeah, according to NBC Sports, it's on unsportsmanlike conduct because they had 75 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties called last season, so they wanted to cut down on that.
That's silly. They should do it on unnecessary roughness.
I totally agree.
You're trying to get them to stop doing that.
If they did it on unnecessary roughness, especially with all of the concern on player safety and concussions and all of that, if you really buckled down on that and said, okay, we're doing it just like soccer, and if 2 unnecessary roughnesses in a game, you're out. I think that would be way better than unsportsmanlike conduct. Or make it both.
So they officially say that that's what they're gonna? It's the only thing. It's not.
That's from everything I'm looking up online, just different sites. They all are saying unsportsmanlike.
Maybe it's something next year they'll look at or whatever. But I mean, it's a step in the right direction, at least. I agree with you though. That's gonna be hilarious if they really do kick somebody out for.
I mean,
Hey,
as much as I defend Cam Newton and I have no problem with him doing his celebrating, it would be kind of interesting to see him making a late comeback in the fourth quarter, score a touchdown, do his dance, and get a second unsportsmanlike conduct, and have Cam Newton get ejected from a game because he was dabbing or something. Just to show how crazy the NFL has gotten.
I have to wonder if they'll do one of those he's a star, he can't get it. Things like basketball.
Don't be surprised, because I mean, they like these guys to be poster boys of this league, and they're not going to want to take them out of games if it can help anything. So,
well, we move on from those rules to apparently the 49ers are saying that nobody is anywhere near getting close to what they want in a trade for Colin Kaepernick. Does this make you think he's going to be a 49er next season?
It's either he's going to be a 49er next season or they're finally going to give in. I really think the reason why nobody's close is because they know that the 49ers are trying to do everything they can to get rid of this guy because he's not.
So they've talked about wanting to keep him though.
But at this point, you keep him, and then what?
And then Chip Kelly makes him become the quarterback that he always needed.
And you get a quarterback version of DeMarco Murray this season, where you get a guy who really doesn't want to be there, doesn't want to be part of that offense, and you get a half-assed job every week until he can go somewhere else.
This has happened before, though. You've had a guy that stays, and he winds up actually doing well.
So you're looking at a guy that has lost his job to Blaine Gabbert. He doesn't care. He does not want to be a 49er anymore. Yeah. I think maybe that's something we didn't really talk about with Denver about Osweiler, is maybe his pride got hurt when they let Peyton Manning have his job back. And he went, no, screw this place. Kaepernick lost his job to Blaine Gabbert.
Who can also run, by the way, so...
Well, I'm sure Colin doesn't care. But just to him, you benched me for Colin Kaepernick, and now you want me to come for this new coach? No, get me the hell out of here. The fact that he's going, I will play for Cleveland, just speaks volumes to me right now.
There might be somebody else that's going to be Gary. My point was when I was saying that I can Blaine Gabbert was that he can fulfill that role that Sam Bradford could not last year, or Mark Sanchez could not last year, which is we've seen Blaine Gabbert run. He does it pretty decently. He's not Colin Kaepernick, but he can do what that offense requires, which is somebody that can threaten you with being able to take off at any moment. And we saw him do it quite often last year when he got to take the job. But I mean, Gary, where do you stand on this? I'm just looking at this going, unless something happens in the draft, which is possible, they may be waiting for that. I kind of think he's going to wind up staying.
I see if he winds up staying, it's going to be a situation, I think, where, like Randy has a point. When players are disenfranchised, they're pretty hard to get back unless you really can find a way to get to their hearts. We saw this last year. You mentioned the Eagles already. Let's go ahead and stick with the Eagles. Chip Kelly ruffled feathers before the season even started last year. Players got into the locker room. No success was happening. That caused more problems. And players were welcomed to see a situation where Chip Kelly was out of there. This is a situation with Kaepernick. He knows that Chip Kelly's coming to his team. He could be the guy, but I think legitimately he wants a new place. He wants new scenery. He doesn't really feel like he's going to be the number one option, I don't think. I think he wants to have a better place for himself, the place where he feels new. If it happens, it's going to probably happen, I believe, on the at the draft or in a quick early trade before the draft even happens. I just don't know what's going to happen, though. I'm kind of with you, Sean. I don't know that any team is going to pony up what the 49ers want, but I could honestly see the 49ers saying, you know what, we need something. Okay, screw it. We're not getting a number one pick. We know that. We'll take a number 3, and we'll take a number 3 next year for Kaepernick. That's fine. At least we're getting a good draft pick that's going to maybe help us in the future. Just do it. Because if he doesn't want to be there, they don't need him.
Yeah, and we still have a little bit of time before the draft. So I think their price is going to come down a little bit, and maybe a team will start reaching as they don't fill the need as they thought they would, or draft projections start moving quarterbacks out of their reach, and things kind of work themselves out. I still think he gets moved. To where is a huge question. My guess is going to be Denver. But I think this is going to be a move that happens closer on in the draft process. Hell, he could even go to the Jets if them and Fitzpatrick can't come up with something. So, like, with all these extra pieces moving, you have to wait for some of those to kind of align before something like this, something of this magnitude could happen.
Yeah, and let me say this. The reason I think we can sit here and talk about this to this point is because Chip Kelly has officially been the head coach of the 49ers for, a month and a half now? And there really has not began any big footing on keeping Kaepernick or getting Kaepernick to the thought process of, hey, I'm his guy. We haven't heard that. We haven't seen that.
Well, he has said that if Colin Kaepernick is here, he will coach the heck out of him.
Yeah, so. But that's great. That's fine and dandy. But as the head coach, he needs to be there talking to this guy. He needs to get in his ear if he really wants him. That's what makes me kind of wonder if really Chip Kelly even cares all that much. Trust me, if I'm Chip Kelly and the starting quarterback or a guy that I would like to see as my starting quarterback is considering leaving, I'm in that city. I am talking to him. I'm saying, what do you want in your playbook, sir? What do you want to do? I'm your head coach, but I want this to work for both of us. You're our best chance. You're the man. I'm going to go ahead and put your poster on the wall of my office tomorrow. Let's get this thing going. You're the guy. We haven't heard that. In fact, Kaepernick alludes to the fact that it's not even close. That shows me Niners don't care that much, or the Kelly doesn't.
Well, we'll have to see which side wins out in the end when we get to that point. Another, I was alluding to already before, but Hugh Jackson apparently had a good meeting with Robert Griffin III. And we know that the Browns are sort of in need of quarterback. Of course, they have the number 2 pick, so they could go with one of the outstanding guys that are being talked about, even though apparently many people are talking about Jared Goff as Jay Cutler, which, would not be a great name to be associated with at this point. What are you thinking for the Browns here? I mean, do they go with that quarterback at number 2, or do you do both? Because there's a lot of unknowns there with RG3. I mean, I can't imagine he could possibly ask for a lot of money where you couldn't have both guys. Or do you see them putting all their eggs in the RG3 basket and going? They obviously have a lot of holes now.
No, I don't see any scenario that would go well if you picked up RG3 and then used your number 2 pick on a quarterback, because we've seen RG3 look over his shoulder with Kirk Cousins the whole time. He does not want to be in that situation again at all. So I think either...
But is he really in the situation where he can ask to be in that situation?
No, but I'm just saying it's not going to work, because I think he plays better. Like, yes, he and Kirk Cousins were drafted the same year, but this is RG3's team. Right. We have Kirk Cousins, he's nice. This is RG3's team, and he played great. And then he got hurt, and then now he's worried about injuries and losing his spot, looking over his shoulder at Kirk Cousins, who has been playing pretty decent behind him, and that starts getting in the back of his mind. Now, most of his issues have been injury-wise, but it's kind of the same thing I was talking about a couple weeks ago with Geno Smith, where you bring in RG3 and then you use the number 2 pick that same year on a quarterback. RG3 is going to be thinking about so many other things other than his play on the field that he's going to get distracted. I think if you bring in RG3, you can't just go with him alone because he is injury prone. But so you either bring in a veteran quarterback or a career backup, or you use like a 4th or 5th round pick as just in case kind of scenario. You don't put that pressure of, okay, we're bringing you in, but the moment you hurt yourself, we have Goff coming in or whoever else, and it's now going to be their job, and you're going to be a backup here too.
Yeah, and, from my point of view, I mean, if they really were considering going with RG3 and they do go, well, let's just say Brandy's scenario, I think that's an opportunity for them really to look at that number 2 pick and say, okay, what other needs do we have? What offensive lineman is best? Yeah, well, there are, but they have their best, the pick of the litter, the offensive line. They can go other directions. For me personally, I wish and pray that they would just go pick up Zeke Elliott and, RG3 Elliott, get that team going. Come on. He doesn't need to go to the Eagles. That's all I'll say.
I agree with you, but man, you got to have people in front of RG3 to block for him.
I'm using a kidding thing, but yeah, I agree. The offensive line, anywhere that they feel like they can use somebody to really bolster that team besides quarterback, because it's obvious quarterback has not been their forte when it comes to the draft.
Well, speaking of one quarterback to another, Tyrod Taylor, at least his agent, is not happy about the fact that the Bills seem to be okay with not giving him an extension that would get him, a bunch of money after this 1 year. Rex Ryan saying that they have to do what's best for the Bills. Is Rex Ryan right here, or should Tyrod Taylor be getting some money?
Tyrod Taylor had, a pretty decent year last year. He had to deal with some injuries, things like that. But I think what we're seeing here is a head coach saying, I need to see more. I think it's an organization that's saying, we need to see more. We need to know that you're our guy before we pay you like our franchise quarterback. Because if you're a one-hit wonder, you're a guy that kind of eludes, has an illusion that you're the next guy and then you end up not being that guy, we're stuck with you for 5 years before we can dump your contract. So I think it's a smart move. I get Taylor wants, a commitment, and, I understand that. I mean, I'm sure there are nice women out all around this country who would love their man to commit to them, but until they're ready, wait it out. And I think Taylor's got to understand that this is best for business situation, and hey, it happens.
Yeah, and this is the tough part about the NFL is the owners and the teams have all the control here, and I do agree with their thought process, because you give him all the money and he gets hurt and you're out of quarterback. You give him all this money and he turns into the next RG3 or Colin Kaepernick, you're out all that money. Yes, he could turn into the next Russell Wilson, but he needs to prove it for one more year, I think. Russell Wilson had to prove it for a few years before he finally got paid. 1 year does not make a starting quarterback. show us that it wasn't a fluke. Show us that once teams can get the film on you and start figuring you out, you're still able to perform above average. So I think one more year of Taylor going out there and proving that he is a very good quarterback will give him even more money on that contract. He just has to bank on himself.
Yeah, exactly. I think you have to do that. If you're Tyrod Taylor, just get in the mindset that obviously you got to play your butt off this season too, and that be it. I mean, just you can't keep going with the charade of, hey, we're gonna keep doing this all off season or whatever. Just focus on yourself, get yourself going. Maybe even if you're having a heck of a mid-season, your first 8 games or whatever, you go to your bye week and they go, hey, you know what? Let's just do it. But you've got to just go with it here and stop playing these little games because especially having your agent come out and say stuff like this, it's just. I think it looks bad on him, honestly. But Robert Kraft sent a letter to Roger Goodell about, hey, dude, give us our first-round pick back after you lost Deflategate. Of course, the NFL is trying to get Deflategate overturned. I think I heard if I remember right, the new judge, not a big fan of this Deflategate thing still going on either. But should the Patriots get their draft pick back? I mean, they did.
Let me find my inner LeBron James. Next question.
Oh, man. I mean, we should have pulled the Iverson. We're talking about Deflategate? Deflategate? Oh, man. I don't know. It's... Okay, look at it from an unbiased view. Look at it as in they lost the case. I guess in a court of law, Deflategate was not real. In that process and that mindset, sure, they should get their first-round pick.
Yeah, I think they won't give it to them at least until they lose again.
Well, I'm pretty sure that when it went to court, that was just that Tom Brady had nothing to do with Deflategate. It wasn't the team. Kraft already came out last year when he was trying to sweep this under the rug.
Yeah, I mean, the team had something to do with it because the two guys worked for the team that were involved. So.
But do we have definitive proof, though? That's the question. Did they ever prove in a court of law that this was a fact?
No, the whole point of the court of law was, like Randy said, to prove that Tom Brady didn't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
It wasn't about proving Deflategate was real or not, because that would have been stupid. No. It was stupid anyway. We're going to court over this.
Yeah. I'm just going from a New England Patriots fan perspective, and the fan perspective is look, the NFL can never prove that this had. They were just going with their accusations. They took our pick away because of accusations. Well, until you prove it to me that this happened, until you can show me evidence, why would you take something from us? That's their thought process on this.
John Harbaugh, wants replay for head-on collisions and helmet or any kind of collision or helmet-to-helmet hit. Basically, so that officials can have a second look at whether something is helmet-to-helmet or not.
As long as they do it like the college way, where you have a replay official up in the booth ready to go and it takes 15-20 seconds, I'm all for it. Because that is one of those calls that gets called a lot. The refs are told to lean on the cautious side, and it costs teams greatly, even though there's no helmet-to-helmet contact at all. So if they can change it where, especially that kind of a call, is just okay, look at 1 or 2 replays real quick in the booth. We don't have to stop play forever to have everyone go huddle up in their little TV monitor on the sidelines, and it's just a bang bang thing. Okay, we missed it. He didn't hit helmet to helmet, no penalty. We move on. I'm for it. But you add stuff like that where it's another 2, 3, 4 minute delay. It's going to slow the game too much.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Randy on that. If they could find a way to make that possible, to speed that process up, to get it done in a fast manner, it makes complete sense. But if you can't do that, if you've got to spend the 7 minutes to figure out that, then sorry, you're not going to get that. It's not valuable to the league for that to happen.
All right, so let's go into rapid fire here. The Cardinals are going to get a season-long NFL Films, or they did do a season-long NFL Films thing on the Cardinals, basically like Hard Knocks, but the entire season, and they're going to show it in the summer. Are you watching it?
I don't watch Hard Knocks, so no, I'm not going to watch this.
I may be tempted to watch it, but I don't know. That the ending may be depressing, kind of like Dexter, so...
I'm just glad I don't have to pay for HBO to watch this. So
yeah,
I'll probably watch it because I've kind of wanted them to do something like that for a while, do the whole season and not training camp, where it's sort of interesting, obviously, but it's not something that I totally care about. It's still preseason. Alfred Morris signs the Cowboys, 2 years, $3.5 million.
all that is to shut the Cowboy fans up about Zeke Elliott. It's all the Cowboy fans want. They know they're not going to get him because Jerry's going to go draft him a defensive end.
Yeah, that's if Bosa's there, and if not, he's going.
Oh, please, God, Bosa go second, third, somewhere, but please, Bosa. Anyway, go ahead.
Why?
Continue.
He's not going to draft. If he drafts anyone, it's the quarterback or a defender or something.
Quarterback is out of the question. They're not drafting a quarterback. I can already tell you that. Secondly,
I don't care. Jerry plays mind games all the time. I bet they'll still be talking about the damn quarterback.
I'm just telling you from what I'm hearing within coaching, within all that, they're saying that they cannot afford not to draft a defensive end. If the Cowboys don't draft a defensive end this year in the draft in the first round, they have already determined that their season's done. Basically,
I agree with you.
So
I agree with you, but is there someone? Are they talking about anybody but Bosa?
The guy, what's his name from Oregon? Oh, I can't think of his name right now. Bernadette or some. I have to think of that. But anyway, yes, there is another defensive end they like.
All right. Well, apparently. So the Jets want Fitzpatrick, but obviously Fitzpatrick wants more money than the Jets have to give. Will he come back to the Jets, like Woody Johnson is saying, or does Fitzpatrick go somewhere else?
This is my nightmare. Just at this point, I would almost rather him sign with a different team than have this be dragging out as long as it is. Yes, absolutely. I would love for Fitzpatrick to come back to the Jets. But if he is sticking to the point where he wants more money, the Jets do not have the money anymore that they would be able to pay him what he wants. So it might just be a point of they just can't get anything to work and they're just going to have to live with it. So if Fitzpatrick doesn't come down money-wise, then the Jets are out of the talks for Fitzpatrick.
So what are the Lions getting with Jeremy Curley? Randy.
A decent number 3 receiver, which for them is okay. I mean, if they would have still been able to keep Calvin Johnson and have him not retire, Curley would have fit perfectly with him and Tate. Have him as your slot guy. Curley works really well in that area. He's a good possession receiver. He's not going to be one of those guys that really dominates a game for you. He's not going to be that guy that's going to go out and get 11, 12 catches for like 150 yards. He's going to get you 7 or 8 catches for 50, 60 yards, and he's going to get those key first downs at times. But he's not a blow-away talent. But it'll be decent for Stafford. I think Stafford will like him.
Does Greg Hardy wind up with a team?
Drew Rosenhaus is throwing out rumors that every team in the league is looking for him. They want him. Everybody wants him. This is a falsity. Will he end up with a team? Yes, he will end up with a team, and that team will be determined later. But I'm sure there will be a team who will say, you know what, screw it. Let's just give him a try. We suck at pass rush. Let's just do this. He'll go in cheap, whatever. But I don't know if it's worth it. But somebody will eventually get desperate. Trust me.
I think he gets signed only after somebody big gets hurt or something like that. I don't think he gets signed right off.
I hope the Patriots give him a chance.
Oh boy. I just want to see Bill Belichick just cut him again. But that's fine. The NFL could be playing games in Germany and China by 2017 and 18.
Well, of course you want to play in Germany because you got to find more teams to fill out your European division when they finally go global in a few years. So Germany's the next.
Can you
step.
imagine playing NFL games in China, guys?
Sure. I mean, they play basketball there.
Mm-hmm.
Make the NFL wants to be global. Will it happen in our lifetime? Who knows? But they want to be like soccer, where they're played all over the world in all sorts of different levels and everything. Big picture wise, they want to be all over the place. Will it be to the point like soccer where now we're going to have to do a World Cup because now you have the NFL of China and the NFL of Europe and have a whole different leagues in there? It's going to be tricky to make it all one league, I think. But they want the NFL name out there everywhere. So China is the perfect place to do it. I mean, look at all of the jersey sales you can get there just from some of that population alone. All right, you go out there and get one decent Chinese player on an NFL team, and that's bank. I mean, just look at Yao Ming and what Yao Ming did to jersey sales when he joined the Rockets.
True. Dang it! I had.
Well, look at it. I'm just let's see if you can find it real quick. I'm looking at breaking news here. It says that Johnny Manziel may be joining a team. They have a picture with him with the Jets.
What?
I hate you, Gary.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's him at the airport and going to Miami. I'm sorry, Randy. No scare there. Ooh, that was a close one. No, I sorry. I can't take the credit for that. I saw that on TMZ yesterday, so I thought of you, Randy.
That's great. I would totally. That'd be awesome. I want to hear Randy go on the rant of. They got that desperate. They went with.
Oh no! Someone made me pee my pants today. They said that Johnny Manziel was rumored to be hooked with the Cowboys because Jerry Jones apparently said, before I sign him to my team, I want to help his personal problems.
That wouldn't actually be surprising if he actually did that anyway.
Oh, Jesus.
So the NFL's...
I will go on record right now. If somehow Johnny Manziel ended up on the Jets this year, I officially take my name off of a Jets fan, and I will go... I've been loving the Jaguars lately, so I will become a Jaguars fan. If the Jets sign Manziel. I've never switched on a team ever. Like I'm a Knicks fan through and through, even though I don't know if I've watched a Knicks game all the way through in like 15 years because it's too painful. But I'm sticking with that team. But if you sign Johnny Manziel, that's it. I'm done. I can't.
Yeah. And if the Cowboys sign Johnny Manziel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go put on a Cowboys Ryan Leaf jersey and sit in front of Jerry's house every day. Look at this. Remember this? You're getting it again.
Yeah, he's in prison again.
Yeah.
So the NFL will not have a developmental league, what they're saying. The fans should not expect a developmental league anytime soon.
You hear that, Vince McMahon? The door is open. Bring back the XFL.
Again.
The
I'm the only
NXFL.
person that enjoyed the XFL.
I love the XFL, man.
I have a jersey.
Yeah,
If
you have the he
if
hate
Vince
me.
McMahon did not come out and go, "We're going to beat the NFL," the XFL might still be
No,
around.
I think where they screwed up was having the wrestlers on the XFL stuff.
Well, I mean, that's just they're trying. They were at that point. They're trying to cross promote and bring the fans over. But I think if they just went, listen, the NFL ends in January or late January, early February. You need something from March to August.
Mm-hmm.
We're it. We are here for your itch. That's it. If they would have just went like that, I think they would have stuck. That's why
they not had the stupid. The scramble thing was stupid. Like that shouldn't.
That is the problem if they would ever bring back the XFL, is the XFL would never work now with all the concussion protocols and stuff, because they really towed the line even more on some of those. They were all about the bigger hits and all of that, so they would really have to bring that back. I don't think they would ever call it the XFL, but if a minor league, NFL league set in the spring, summer, I think as long as you're not thinking it's going to go out and get tens on the ratings all the time, I think could actually work.
I agree. I'm totally agreeing on this because of the fact that, football fans really love to see the game played outside, played like the NFL. Arena football, not so much, because it's not even like college football. So it's kind of a parody of football. I think that's the way they look at it. That's why no one really takes it serious. But the way the XFL was played, sure, it had its gimmicks, but still at that point, it was more like you're watching NFL type football. You're watching people that were in the NFL playing in this league as well. So you have a few guys you already know. It's basically just like the NXT that wrestling has. It's the NXFL. That would work out perfect. And I'm just going to throw this out there, too. You saw entertainment do this. The Walking Dead, one of the biggest shows on television right now, started a second show to follow the season finale of The Walking Dead. That way, all those fans don't leave. They're still hooked to the same network. It's smart business.
Actually, I just came out with what I feel is a brilliant idea. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but so you have all those players that don't get drafted, right? And they get sent off to the CFL and arena football and all over so they can continue playing the game that they love. So you take all of those guys and you form a few teams, 8 teams, right? Mm-hmm. That's all it is, an 8-team league, and it starts the week after the Super Bowl or 2 weeks after the Super Bowl, have it kind of calm down. And they play up until a week before or 2 weeks before the draft. And the week before the draft, or you can do it a week after the draft if you still want the younger players first. You have a secondary draft where you can only draft the teams that won the championship of that league. So now you're watching these players play their hearts out to have their chance again to get drafted. Show what the NFL teams missed out on and show that they can grow. But you have to win the championship to be able to get back into a drafting situation.
Oh, man.
That's great. I don't think that would work. They do have a supplemental draft already, so...
Yeah, but now you have a league set around it.
No, I agree with you. The league existing to help the supplemental draft or whatever would be great. I don't know that the whole basically you're doing the same thing. Like you're working to get a call up. I don't know that it works that way with
the only thing I would worry about was if you had a receiver who was really good and really proved that, hey, everybody got it wrong on me. Look how good I am, and I didn't get to win the championship. I think that guy's going to retire if agents start telling him Kansas City's going to pay you, $4.5 million, and you're making $200,000 to play in this league.
No, and it wouldn't have to be you'd have to win the championship. I was just looking at a way of making it interesting and get the...
Oh, no. I mean, if you want it to be a developmental league, then you tie it to... I think the only problem is you have to have as many teams as... I mean, eventually you could make it almost like a AAA or like the D League for basketball, and you have almost all the teams have a team or something like that. But it would have to be funded by the NFL, and I just, I think it can work. It's just that's a lot of money involved, and would people actually go see that? And
well,
stuff
even
like
better,
that?
how many cities really want an NFL team? What city just lost one? St. Louis.
Yeah.
There's a developmental city that you could put a team in. Put one in Portland. Just all these cities that could possibly be big enough for the NFL, but aren't. There you go. You now you have a developmental team there, and now they have their team that they could root on. Put one in Utah. Just put one in. Who knows? There's so many in the East Coast, but I'm sure there's places that could still.
You could have one in Orlando.
San Jose.
Yeah.
I have one in San Antonio.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I would hope that's what they're thinking of, and not the whole, we're going to have our developmental league is NFL the world again, or whatever.
I didn't know. Once again, I had no problem with NFL Europe. I enjoyed it. I really didn't have a big problem with it.
As long as they make it to where you can watch it here, I guess.
I watched it.
I know, but I think it works better, like what Randy said, and I like the MLS approach, and you can have like LA Galaxy 2 or whatever, but I think if you do it more like you can have it in these cities that don't have NFL, I think they will totally go with that. But that's an entire thing that they would take years for them to do, and it's
Yeah, I just want to watch the Spokane Spartans. That's what I want to see.
Hey, we got one of the better AFL. I think they bumped up to the main AFL now. The Spokane Shock. They used to be part of the AFL 2, which is sad that there's 2 AFL leagues. But I think they finally did bump up to the top one. But I went and seen the Shock. The Shock are pretty good.
Is it like a relegation thing, or the one who goes down to AFL 2? Or
I don't know if they've just gotten rid of AFL 2, but it didn't seem because it was on NBC. Those playoffs, and they were talking about the Spokane Shock. So I think they bumped up. I don't know how it worked, but I don't follow arena football. I went and seen a game, and it was a blast. But
see, I don't either. And what's funny is I'm kind of depressed because I don't know what this team is. But Sean, I just recently found out, and you'll know this city, but the Mesquite, it's a local North Texas town, actually has their own arena football team now, and it's actually played at the rodeo. With the Mesquite Rodeo, yes, and it looks so funny to see the stands. But they play.
I've been to that Mesquite Rodeo. It's not,
It's not fancy, but I'm telling you, it's kind of funny to see arena football in that stadium.
Yeah, it is. Wow. Okay, so, we went really long on the news stuff, but so we are going to continue on with our. We may not get to do March Madness here. It's going to be a 2-hour-long podcast. We got Patrick Ketza here talking about his Chicago Bears for a little bit under 15 minutes. So here we go. Starting off our interviews with the Bears tonight. All right. Doing the first interview for the podcast tonight, and with me here is another W2M Network alum, Mr. Patrick Ketza. You probably hear every Sunday on Wrestling Unwrapped. He is obviously lives in Chicago and a Chicago Bears fan. How are you doing?
It stinks. Not too bad, but it's. This is going to be interesting to talk about.
So, you've been a Bears fan all your life, or just kind of one of those, you picked it up later, or how does that work?
No, I've pretty much been a Bears fan all my life. You have him talk about it last year going into the season, but I don't even think any Chicago Bears fans expected it to be this bad.
Well, let's talk about that season. which was sort of up and down. You had the Jay Cutler getting hurt again. You had the sort of carousel at QB for a little bit. Then Jay Cutler came back, and the team was a little better. They had shots at getting in the playoffs at certain times, and they would lose games that you probably think they should win. What do you think about the season just in general last year?
Because I'm trying to remember, I think when we did the preview, I said I don't see them more than an 8-8 team, and well, that's technically right. Because it just, I think I do think Cutler's injury probably was about the worst thing to happen, especially when they ended up going into that game against the Seahawks, where not only did they get blamed, but I think they only ended up having one possession, even in the Seahawks side of the field, and punted on every possession. So it just, you could say that there were, kind of bright spots at times, but I don't think it ever really looked good.
So this offseason has been a pretty, eventful one. You did, of course, lose two guys that have been very key pieces to your team in Matt Forte and Martellus Bennett, both going to the AFCs, actually. And, I mean, Matt Forte has been a piece of that team for a while. Obviously, Jeremy Langford was sort of the heir apparent, and it seemed that way last year. What do you feel about this? Do you think it was the time for Forte to go, or would you have wanted him to stay?
I think maybe I would have given Forte one more year, maybe. Like you said, it did seem like Jeremy Langford was the heir apparent behind Forte, and I think Langford's probably going to end up with the lead role from now on. I do wish he had gotten more reps, so maybe this upcoming season had been more of a 50-50 season between Langford and Forte. But, I mean, if Matt wanted to go, Matt wanted to go. And, losing Martellus Bennett, at least the Bears were able to get, a pick out of that from the Patriots. And it is going to be kind of weird to see two teammates, especially two teammates who are, crucial roles of the Bears' offense, end up being, I believe, division rivals now, with Forte going to the Jets and Bennett going to the Patriots. But then not only on the offense, you have the defensive side, too, with the Bears losing Shea McClellan. But at the same time, they were able to pick up Danny Trevathan. So it'll be interesting to see how that works, because a lot of people are calling that an upgrade.
Oh, certainly. And then you got Jarrell Freeman from the Colts, so you got two terrific linebackers basically next to each other now on that defense. So.
Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to see, though, how well they mesh, or if this is going to end up being, an 8-8 season where everyone tries to get used to it, since it's such a huge drastic change.
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because it seemed like Bennett was Cutler's favorite target. I think then Bennett got hurt, and then Zach Miller sort of became that guy, and he got re-signed. So you lose one tight end, you basically get to keep another veteran tight end. So you don't feel like you lost much there, right? In the end.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. I do still think a lot of people would prefer to have Bennett over Miller, but because, like you said, it seemed like at times Bennett was Cutler's favorite target until his injury. But at the same time, I think Miller should be able to slip into the role as lead tight end more easily than, say, Jeremy Langford as lead running back. But, there's also going to be the factor of, is Miller going to have the same, what's the word I'm looking for? The same, I don't want to use relationship, the same chemistry with Cutler that Bennett had.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly going to be one to look out for. It's if you watch looking back at some of the games, I mean, Zach Miller did have that like 80-yard touchdown or whatever that he had against the Rams, and it seemed like they're gonna be okay. I mean, transitioning over to what was a defense that had issues last year, obviously, stopping teams. Now you bring in the linebackers that we talked about. You re-sign Tracy Porter, and you also bring Akeem Hicks into that defensive line. So you improve in spots. Do you feel now that what was the major biggest problem for the defense last year, and do you think it got addressed?
I think they definitely got it, especially with the running back, because that's kind of the crucial spot on the field there, because the Bears the Bears seem to give up like a lot of big plays late, and it seemed like a lot of the team was still a little bit old and didn't have like enough juice left at the end of the game. The problem is it seemed the Bears were a super hit and miss team, but they were having more misses than hits. Like, obviously, their biggest hit, was beating the Packers in Green Bay on Thanksgiving night on Brett Favre's retirement night. That was probably the biggest hit that they had. But other than that, they didn't really do anything major. And I think the age did kind of play a part. I still do think the Bears would be better with a new quarterback, but I think that's kind of spitting into the wind now, and there's almost no point in even complaining about it anymore.
But so how do you feel that, a lot of what Jay Cutler did last year was sort of a tribute to Adam Gase, who's now gone. Do you think Jay Cutler learned from that and now sort of reaches that potential, or do you think he kind of goes back to the Jay Cutler that we've seen in previous years?
It's tough to say because, like you said, Adam Gase is gone, so he's going to have to learn a new regiment already, almost automatically. I doubt that everyone's really going to give him the benefit of the doubt, considering the fact that, Cutler hasn't really been the major leader of, an offensive-minded team. He's not exactly regarded as a field general like, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning are. So he's going to have to learn a new regiment. The main factor is how is he going to react to learning a new regiment.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's one of those weird things with Jay Cutler. He's not bad at all. He just has those moments where he either gets hurt a lot or he just kind of, would you say he sort of quits on the team at times, or?
There's a reason Smoking Jay Cutler is a meme. It's just, it seems like when he starts this year was almost a perfect example. He starts off he looks like he's going to have a great year, gets injured, and then he comes back and it was kind of meh the rest of the year, or we end up just having a meh year the entire time. I mean, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. I think they only had a 1-win improvement. So while you could say, oh, that's improvement, but at the same time, if Cutler hadn't missed those games, that may have been 2 more wins. 8-8, and you could at least be in the hunt for a playoff spot, which it was actually kind of ridiculous that you even were in the hunt for a playoff spot with a sub-500 record. But
a lot of the NFC was bad.
Yeah, I was about to say, we're talking to NFC North here, so...
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. At one point, all 4 of the teams were in the playoff hunt last year.
Yeah.
It was quite an adventure, that whole NFC last year. But so, looking at now the draft and basically kind of what's left of your offseason, do you feel like there's any glaring needs that you haven't addressed that you want to address there?
I would think probably the defensive line may need an address or two, and actually either line, the offensive line as well. I think they're going to have a good receiving core next year, especially if they're able to re-sign Langford, which I think they are still going for that. Picking up the two linebackers they have, is already a huge improvement for the defense, but linebackers aren't while they meet the big key roles, they're not the only roles there. So I would say probably look at offensive line, trying to get more, or defensive line, rather, and getting more sacks, and probably the offensive line to just try and buy your quarterback some time to let a play develop.
Yeah, certainly. You don't want Cutler having to run for his life like he has in past seasons as soon as he snaps it. So looking now, let's say we're away from this offseason, we're in training camp. You would have called this a successful offseason because what three things happened?
The improvement at linebackers, or specifically just on defense. I think bringing in more youthful players, having Langford take the lead role, having Miller take the lead role. So I think those two things have already made it a successful offseason, and I think they can at least improve on the 6-10 season that they had last year. And it's kind of a case of what ifs, because you don't know what's going to happen between now and August.
Right.
So, I could say the first thing is get a new quarterback, but obviously we know that's not going to happen. But well, I don't need someone to replace Cutler immediately. I need a backup that makes them shot at in the future.
Yeah, fair enough.
Not someone to replace Jay Cutler immediately, because we know that won't happen. He's still in the middle of his 7-year contract.
Yeah, that's always going to be hard to get him off your books, and let's hope that it winds up panning out for them in the end, because even though they didn't want Gase to leave, he left. Look how many coordinators and coaches he's put under the fire or have left in his time, and now he's, like you said, have to learn everything new once again. But Patrick, I think you answered all of our questions here, so I want to thank you for helping out.
Oh, no problem.
All right, sir. You have a good day.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Later. All right. Before we get to what Patrick said here, apparently another rule has been very close to being voted on and probably finalized here. But I'm going to read you this quote. When we look at the film and we look particularly at the concussions that were sustained, the kickoff just stands out. It's a very dangerous play. We've been successful, I think, with some of the changes increasing the number of touchbacks. That we want to move the touchback line to the 25-yard line, so it would help us have even fewer returns. Yes, you're taking an exciting play out of the game. From a safety standpoint, it's really something that I think is a concern. So if you're wanting to move the touchback back to 25-yard line, so it's no longer the 20, it's 25 now. Why not just eliminate kickoff returns, period? Isn't this what you're trying to do anyway?
Yeah, it looks like it to me. I mean, I don't understand that thought process of let's get it back, so far to where, I mean, there's not even a point. I mean, the 25-yard line, really? I mean, I don't like that. Don't like it at all. I agree with you, Sean, on this. I think maybe you figure out something where you're just like, okay, everybody starts at the 20-yard line every time.
Yeah, I think they're slowly just trying to get this part out of the game. They're not going to go out and drastically just say, okay, no more kickoffs now, but slowly changing things where now the kickoff has moved up a little bit, and now the touchback line has moved up. And And 10 years down the line, they're going to go, oh, yeah, we're getting rid of kickoffs. And we're going to go, oh, we saw it coming. Instead of doing it a few years ago and saying they're going to get rid of it and having such an outrage. I think they're just kind of slowly trying to take it out.
I guess they have a point in this whole injury deal, but my Lord, you're giving people free 25 yards. That's... I just think you need to just eliminate the kickoffs and leave it at 20. I don't know. That's just me. I get people get hurt.
With the rule, they're really giving them up 5 yards, or 5 extra yards. And I'm okay with it. I think I'd rather, if you're going to get rid of the kickoffs, have them start at the 20. But the 25 wouldn't upset me that much.
What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, I'm with Randy on that. 25-yard line, it is what it is. A lot of teams start out at the 25 anyway. I get it. It makes me sad. It really does. I totally understand it, but I love those highlight videos. I love when it happens when your team is able to get those big kick returns. It's exciting. It's a part of the game that's something that can really just spark an entire team to a victory, or just be something nice. For once in a while, your team gets something just special. And taking that away, kind of, here we go again. Let's just get back on the field and go to offense. Special teams is seemingly becoming less effective more and more now. It's completely getting eliminated from the game almost at times.
Yep. This has been a play that's been around for a long time, but I get it. I get the sheer force of you going down there and trying to tackle that guy that's running, and then the amount of times that the guys can get blocked the wrong way or whatever, and they get hurt, or they just get knocked to the ground because they're trying to knock them down so the guy can run through. It is what it is, I guess. But moving into what Patrick had to say about the Bears, obviously Randy's biased because Forte went to the Jets. But Gary, do you kind of see what Patrick was talking about here with should they have given Forte another year, or?
As the Bears go on, and I'm sure the Bears fans kind of like Patrick, you wanted to see Forte stick around probably. I think a lot of people in Chicago love Forte. He did a lot for that team. He was something that kind of was a nice 1-2 punch with Langford there. Losing him, sure, it sucks, but he was more of a luxury because I think Langford proved himself a lot last year, proved that he can do the job. So, he is a loss, but at the same point, I feel like, they're going to be okay. They've got to move on some point, and why not before Forte can't do it anymore?
Yeah, having a veteran running back like Forte is definitely beneficial, but I don't think you're going to see the Forte that is going to completely carry the team. If they were able to keep him for about what the Jets ended up signing him for and having him there as the number 2 punch to Langford and give Langford more of the carries, I think he would have really been effective in his less touches that way and make him the third down back since he's better receiving anyway. So I think he really would have worked out okay still in Chicago for a few more years, but to lose him, I don't think it's going to affect him as much as I think some people think.
Yeah, I agree on that part. I think they were better off making that decision, let Langford go ahead and take over the team, let it be his team now, and it becomes what it becomes, I think, at this point. Forte, I think he knew where things were going at that point, and he knew his time was short with the Bears, and he went and signed with another team that might use him more. So it's not a bad thing in that case. I mean, obviously, we've talked about Bennett leaving, going to the Patriots, but I mean, they did re-sign Zach Miller. They've signed Josh Hill to an offer sheet. They have to wait for the Saints to see if they want to match or not. So obviously trying to cover for losing Bennett. You think that fills the hole there?
Hill's a decent tight end, but to me, I mean, you got a guy like Bennett who is kind of a special player. He's got the size, he's got the power. He's a great run blocker. He does a lot of good things, and Hill is serviceable. He's a guy that's okay, but just to me, he really does not fulfill what you lost in Bennett.
Well, I think if you pairing Hill, let Hill block so that Zach Miller can go out there and catch passes, that's not a bad idea.
It's not. I'm sorry. I still like Bennett and Zach Miller. Both together, that's a more powerful punch than Hill, Zach Miller.
What do you think, Randy?
Yeah, I think I would still rather have Bennett, but if you're just talking about kind of filling that void that they lost when they lost Bennett, he's going to do just fine.
Do you think, what did you think about I mean, a lot was made last year about Adam Gase being the reason why Jay Cutler had improved. Do you think that we start seeing that old Jay Cutler creep back in then?
Yeah, it's so tough to say yes. I think we're so accustomed to this Jay Cutler that, him going back to a good Jay Cutler would surprise all of us. So I'm going to say no.
Really, in my personal opinion, Jay Cutler's Jay Cutler. He's, up, down, dark, light. Oh, he's a mixture of everything. I mean, he really is. I mean, you don't know what mood he's going to be in. He's going to be in a sour mood, very grumbly, or he's going to be very happy and throwing touchdown passes, and it's just beautiful. But it's just I don't think that anything's really going to change this guy.
I think overall, though, they did as we talked about there, defensively, this team looks a lot better than they did coming into the offseason, right? They shored up some holes.
Yeah, for sure they did, and I think that they can, at least start here and keep working on it in the draft and other places. They've got a good start, so let's see what they can do moving on.
Yeah, franchising Jeffrey and hopefully they can sign him for a long-term deal is definitely going to help them. But I think they still have a bit of a ways to go. I still see them as probably the third best team in this division, but they are taking strides in the right direction, so that's good to see.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that still needs some offensive line help there, I think, for sure. And the secondary has been, as I think Patrick kind of alluded to, been an issue. They got to figure that out in the draft. But hey, well, they'll have Kevin White healthy, at least you'd hope. So the receiving core should be better with Jeffrey added there. I really think that linebacking core got super improved quick. If Freeman and Trevathan can gel there. So we'll have to see how that goes along. We're going to move on to have Brennan Underwood talking about the Minnesota Vikings. Almost about 18 minutes here. So. All right. So I'm here doing the second interview for the podcast tonight, and with me is lifelong Minnesota Vikings fan Brennan Underwood. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Very good, very good.
All right. So you, the team obviously took a step in the right direction last year.
Yes,
for that 2015 season. And with that stadium being built and everything, good things, at least that way. What did you think of the 2015 season in general?
They surprised me a little bit. and then killed me at the end, of course. I thought for Teddy Bridgewater's first full year in the league, he stepped up and made the right throws. I'd like to see him take more risk, but for the first full year as a starter, 11 wins, can't complain about that. And my main concern with the 2015 season was just our offensive line. It wasn't good at all. And Adrian Peterson coming back after the year-long suspension, wasn't sure how he was going to take off, but he took off right where he left off, so that was nice to see. And really the main concern with 2015 season is their O-line at the end of the season.
I mean, and they sort of addressed that a little bit here with, Andre Smith coming in, and I think they signed another offensive lineman as well to make sure that they blocked for Adrian Peterson. So,
yeah, it's was definitely the main thing that they were going after in free agency with the signing of Alex Boone and Andre Smith. Teddy Bridgewater was the 29th ranked quarterback in hits and pressure last year, so he's not going to be able to do anything with that. Now, with those signings, they now have the number one paid offensive line in the entire league as far as salary cap wise. So hopefully that'll help. I think it will. I'm a big fan of Alex Boone, and I like the nastiness he'll bring to our offensive line.
yeah, it's certainly, that was the thing last year. I mean, they still seemed to open holes for Peterson, but poor Bridgewater was basically having to fear anytime he was having to throw the ball. One of the other things was the revelation of Stephon Diggs really doing well last year. What did you think about his performance?
I think he's going to be a heck of a player. Love his attitude. Fights for every yard. I'm a Big Ten Iowa Hawkeyes fan, so him coming from Maryland, I had seen him before and knew how explosive he was. Just wasn't sure how it translates to the NFL. But once they got him in the starting lineup, he's a precise route runner, and he doesn't drop balls, and that's one thing that we've had problems with wide receivers in the past is drop balls. That's why they got rid of Mike Wallace, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Wallace had some things to say about Teddy Bridgewater there, and you kind of already talked about how it probably wasn't Bridgewater's fault. I mean, what did you think about what Mike Wallace had to say?
I think it was a cop-out. I think, like I said, it's Teddy Bridgewater's first full year in the league. Mike Wallace, at this point in his career, I think is just a deep threat, and that's not what the Vikings are doing right now. They're going to run the ball and play good defense and win that way. And Mike Wallace has always went with the flash and 50-yard touchdown catches, and Bridgewater just didn't have the reins to let it go as much, I guess I would say, last year, it looked like to me. And this offseason, in a recent interview Mike Zimmer did, he said that's what he'd like Bridgewater to do next year is take the reins off and just let it fly more.
Do you think that's really going to happen, though? Isn't that also a offensive coordinator sort of thing? It's not necessarily always Bridgewater?
I think North Turner had a lot to do with the play calling and where not as many deep throws and just making easy throws for Bridgewater. Like I said, with that O-line, he didn't exactly have all the time in the world to take 5 steps and throw it all the way down the field anyways. So it was 3-step drops and quick outs, quick slants. One thing I like that they did the last 4 games of the season that I've been saying that they should have been doing all year is they started moving Jarek McKinnon around, wide receiver, slot, Adrian Peterson's back up, and then letting him run routes and get out in space with his quickness and finding him. And when we drafted him, I always thought that North Turner, coming from San Diego, when he was back to San Diego, needed to start using him as more of like a Darren Sproles-like type, just to get Teddy Bridgewater more weapons.
Yeah, I mean, and they also re-signed Asiata. They brought in Brian Leonard, the tight end from Oakland. I mean, so you think offensively, is there something you need still, or you think they're kind of set there?
I think they definitely need tall, lanky, big play, jump and get it wide receiver. That's one thing that is lacking on the roster that nobody can do. We've got a lot of quick, speedy guys with good route running, but just don't have that person that can jump over the cornerbacks and go after it and get it and high point that ball in the air. That 6'5", 6'6" wide receiver, Calvin Johnson type, Alshon Jeffries type, currently is not on the roster.
Is there a guy in the draft that you want to see him go after?
From what I've seen with the combine and pro days and everything, I'm not sure if he'll be there at pick 23, but of course really like with Treadwell. And then if he's not there, I'd like to see them go after Doxson. I like his speed and his high point ball catching. He goes up and gets the ball and brings it down. But I really like Treadwell. I think he has the best hands in the draft. I think he's the best route runner, and he goes up and gets it the best. And then coming off that broken fibula injury last year and having the year they had shows a lot to me too.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and considering all the things they've done now, lots being made about Adrian Peterson, with his, you think he's really gonna break that record?
He's getting up there. He just turned 31 yesterday, I believe. So he'll be 31 out there running around. Do I think he'll break the record? I don't, because I see them moving more in a direction of a balanced offense than Teddy Bridgewater's second year as far as throwing the ball, and I think they'll still be run heavy, but I do think they'll pass the ball more with the new O-line, and if they can get Teddy Bridgewater protection. Adrian Peterson, he's hitting this. I guess you could say with first year back, it seems like he was hesitant hitting the hole a little bit. He was a little tapped his feet in the backfield some. I don't know his first year in North Turner's offense, getting to play in it finally, if that had anything to do with it. I know week 1 against San Francisco, when they lost that game Monday night, 19 of his 24 runs were out of shotgun, and that's just not the type of runner Adrian Peterson is. He's 7 yards back, put his foot in the ground, make the hole, and explode through it. He's not one to get a handoff in shotgun, and then once they switched back to the 7 yards deep, that's when he started busting off the good games and stuff, and looking like the Adrian Peterson of old before the whole saga went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly you could tell the difference last year. He got better he got better as it went on. Then he kind of towards the end though he started having some issues. He was fumbling a bit more, and obviously that one fumble in the playoff game. But do you think it's just teams started to kind of figure the Vikings out as it went on last year?
I think they realized that at that point the O-line was struggling, and they put 8, 9 in the box and blitz blitz the gaps and load it up. And towards the end of the year, I think it just came down to the person you don't let beat you is Adrian Peterson. The team decided to make Teddy Bridgewater try to beat him with his arm.
Yeah, and that was obviously an issue. Well, and then they knew with that offensive line being the way it was easy to kind of go after him that way. But moving on to the defense, you've signed Michael Griffin at safety. You re-signed Terrence Newman. You've signed a couple of linebackers as well. Do you like the moves? Or?
Yeah, we need somebody. I like the veteran presence next to Harrison Smith, who, in my eyes, is one of the top 3 safeties in the entire league at this point. I love our linebacking core. To me, they have the best line. They re-signed Greenway, which it sounds like they will, for that veteran presence at weak side. I would put the Vikings linebacking core against anybody in the entire league. Anthony Barr, he's a stud, and Eric Kendricks, being a rookie last year, started every game except for the one he missed with a hamstring. And as a rookie, it's been a long time since we've had a middle linebacker that can cover and hit the gaps like he can. That's the number one thing that impressed me with Eric Kendricks was his covering skills from the linebacker position. He's just on tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. That's obviously in the league these days, it's a pass-happy league, and when you're in a division with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and the way the Lions like to throw the ball and Cutler and Alshon Jeffries, you need those pass stoppers on the backside of the defense to guard those big wide receivers. Don't have to worry about Calvin Johnson anymore, but still got Alshon Jeffries, Jordy Nelson will be back, Randall Cobb. So there's still a lot of wide receiver talent in the division, so you got to cover that up.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the standout things was your defensive line last year. Remember watching many of their games in between Linval Joseph and Everson Griffin and a few of the other guys. They were really getting at the quarterback and becoming a presence for that defense to kind of do what they did last year.
Yeah, that was going into the season. That's the one thing I didn't have any doubts about was their defensive line. They get after the quarterback between Everson Griffin and Robinson on the other side, and Daniel Hunter coming in as a rookie and having 6.5 sacks, our 3rd-round pick. I don't think anybody expected that. He's very raw and has a bunch of talent, just very raw and young. He was only 20 years old last year, and that was a great surprise by, I think, all Vikings fans watching last year, to have your 3rd-round pick as a rookie have 6.5 sacks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so looking at, these defensive moves that you've made, do you think that the team still needs something on the defensive end?
I think they need to re-sign Greenway, and I'm sure it'll be his last year, which it sounds like they're still working on. And besides that, I think our defense is pretty set. Terrence Newman, he played good last year. We re-signed him, but obviously it's going to come a time with Trey Waynes. It'll be interesting seeing how much he progresses this year. Our 1st-round pick last year, being behind Terrence Newman, and how much he gets to play. He started to play better in the end of last year, but that's one of the main things I'm looking at going into the season, seeing how much Trey Waynes has progressed under Mike Zimmer and his defense going into his year 2.
So you would call this, moving on to, let's say you're out of the off season, the draft is already happened, You're in training camp. You say this is a successful offseason because what three things happened?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
You say that this is a successful offseason because what three things happened during that time?
Well, number one, they addressed the offensive line. That's the number one reason why. And the number one thing I wanted to see them do this off season. I'm happy that we re-signed a lot of our own players instead of going out. One thing I like that Zimmer's done since he's got here really is he's worried about re-signing his own players that he's coached up already for a few years instead of going out and trying to win the Super Bowl through free agency. And he'll go out and get those players that he needs. And I like the pipeline between from Cincinnati players to Minnesota players right now, him coming from Bengals. A lot of them want to come play for Mike Zimmer. Right now, a lot of people are interested in the Vikings because they're one of the youngest teams in the league, and they're up and coming. I believe it was NFL Network that rated them the number one youngest talented up-and-coming team in the league. So they're very young, and to get 11 wins with how young they are, I can only see good stuff in the future.
All right. Well, Brennan, you've answered all of our questions here. I want to thank you for helping out. We'll do another one of these come after the draft, so everybody can kind of talk about how their draft went. But I want to thank you again, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, you have a good day.
You too.
Sorry, I had to X something out of my computer first, so I put it back off mute. Well, I mean, I thought he hit everything about the team pretty well. I mean, this is a Vikings team that went to the playoffs, so they don't have to make a whole lot of changes. They decided to go the route of re-signing a lot of players and then kind of bringing in guys in spots that they needed. What did you guys think?
Yeah, it's a wise thing, and this is going to possibly be a trend with a lot of teams now, where if they have a good team, a team that's solid and has some key features, instead of depending on solely free agency, depending just solely on the draft, teams are now saying, "Hey, we're going to sign our guys that have been here, guys we can trust, and we're going to add." It's philosophy that the Packers have lived by, the Patriots have lived by, and so other teams are doing that. So I think these are some smart moves here for the Vikings. I think they're kind of, doing a little bit of smart business here, if you ask me.
What do you think, Randy, about what do you think about what they need still? Do they need anything, or is what he says, are they kind of set now? Randy?
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm over here talking to myself. But no, I did agree with him. Listen, Minnesota came out and really surprised me. I thought they were going to be improved, but I didn't think they'd be quite to Green Bay's level, and they were. And they are still pretty young. Yes, Adrian Peterson's kind of hitting that age where you expect him to kind of start falling off a little bit. But other than that, they have explosive players on different offensive positions. Their defense is pretty solid. I think, if anything, maybe kind of shore up the defense even more, get more depth, I guess, on the defense. So because injuries are going to happen to all teams, but if you can get yourself in a position where injuries are only going to make you go, well, we have this good player and he's hurt, so now we're going to bring in this good player, then you're solid. So if they can start forming that in the defense around the offensive weapons they have, they go from an NFC North division contender to a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I mean, they did. I mean, the main thing with the Vikings last year was Teddy Bridgewater getting sacked a lot. So they added a lot of different guys and re-signed, and they added 2 linemen and they re-signed some linemen. So now, as has been already talked about, they have different options here as what they want to do with the makeup of their line. If they gel and you get Peterson running the way you're used to seeing him run, you get. I think that's the one thing that he talked about that the Vikings need. They need somebody on the other side of Diggs who's going to be catching balls, whether it's deep, whether it's those type of throws that you make where you just heave them up there and have somebody catch it. You already have a Kyle Rudolph. You already kind of brought in a Leonard to kind of be a second guy blocking tight end. Also, that is the one guy or the one position I think that they really, really need at this point.
Definitely. I agree. And, they can have Adrian Peterson run all day long, and that's great. And I think it's something that, is going to definitely help their team. It's going to be a signature, but you're totally right on this, Sean. I mean, they need a second receiver that's going to draw attention, that's going to help AP, because AP can do so much, that offensive line can do so much, but if you don't have a balanced attack that's working for you, teams are just going to stack the box and find every way they can to stop the run, and they're going to force you to beat them to the pass. And we saw that at times last year where it was all on Bridgewater. There were a few points where he looked okay, but there were a lot of times where that strategy, that when the defense employed it, really put the halts on that Vikings offense because Bridgewater couldn't always handle it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the defense was not the problem at all last year, and they made it better. So, I think the Vikings are in good shape to continue to move ahead as far as that team goes. Well, Randy, got a little bit here to talk about March Madness if you want. So.
Oh man, I mean we kind of touched on it a little bit. Sean, actually, if we go by the points, you are leading our bracket challenge, but you, like me, have zero chance of winning this thing unless complete anarchy starts happening, because you and I and a few others in our group went with Michigan State, who had one of the bigger upsets happen to them, losing to a 15 seed in mid-Tennessee State. And not only did they lose, they were completely dominated. Like, if you took the names off of the jerseys and just watched the game, you would say that Middle Tennessee State was the 2 seed, because they went out there, jumped out to a huge leader after the bat, and never gave it up. Michigan State never led once. But what I've loved about this whole weekend, and I talked about at the beginning, we've had so many crazy endings. Northern Iowa goes out and lets Texas come back and tie the game, only to get the ball and throw a half-court shot up and hit it off a bank to win a game. And that was part of probably the craziest 5 minutes I've ever seen in this tournament. So you have that shot go in, and then 5 minutes later in the St. Joe's Cincinnati game, you have Cincinnati down by 2. They make this great pass. A kid goes up to dunk the ball, and as he's dunking it, the ball is just going into the cylinder. The buzzer goes off, and they go and replay it, and his hands are still on the ball, and it's counted as not a basket, and they lose because of just a 100th of a second that he still had the ball in his hands dunking this thing. So you feel bad for him, but you had crazy things like that. And then, what was it, Sunday night was even crazier, where you had Texas A&M down by 12 points with 44 seconds left. They come all the way back to win it without fouling. You have Wisconsin hit a running three-pointer in the corner to beat Xavier. Just all in all, just complete craziness. But in the end, here we are with 16 teams, 15 of them from major conferences and Gonzaga. So no Cinderellas really left, but the first 2 rounds were completely crazy, and now you're going to get the best of the best this next weekend, and you're going to get solid college basketball. So I'm way excited to watch all these games.
All right. Well, there's your March Madness wrap-up. I'm going to try harder to actually watch some of these games. But until Thursday night, Friday morning, where we'll be talking about the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions. We will see you guys then. Of course, before we leave, I forgot again that we need to thank Last Word on Sports for having us be in a partnership with them. They're a great website. You should go check out everything that's written there. They have great writers all across the board for each of the sports. I do some wrestling writing there, but the NFL writing certainly is top notch. And of course, we've had some of the NFL writers talking about their teams on this series that we've done. So certainly, you guys go check it out. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes and Stitcher, and subscribe to that WTM network, because that always helps us out as well. If you want to check out any of the other podcasts that were available. But we'll talk more about that on the Thursday show. Until then, everybody, peace. If I can find the darn end, there we go.